This is the Masonic Light Podcast featuring Pete Ruggieri and Larry Maris. A non-stuffy, somewhat humorous approach to understanding our craft. We guarantee you'll have a good time or your money back. This podcast is not endorsed or approved by the Grand Lodge or any jurisdiction. In fact, they'll probably hate it. And now, here's our host, Pete Ruggieri and Larry Maris.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Masonic Podcast. We're here for episode 5, I believe. Is it, Larry?
Yes, it is.
So our guest today is Richard Kenna. We call him Dick because I guess that's what we call Richards. His name is Dick Kenna. Hello, Richard.
Good morning.
And we're going to have an odd show today. We're just going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to try and follow Larry's format. Yeah, maybe. But we're going to allow Dick to chime in the whole time because we had breakfast this morning. We started talking about stuff, and we had to keep stopping our conversations because they were like, no, this is too good. We need this for the air. So a little more free flow this time. So, Larry.
Yes, sir.
What do we have going on? What have we done since our last meeting?
Well, we've had a prominence. We had a great breakfast with the Goose and Gridiron, which is basically a local breakfast club of Masons that meet once a week every Thursday. And it seems to be growing, so we actually tested a new facility out last Thursday. And we'll take a vote on how that worked out.
Okay.
Yeah, truth of the matter is, that's why I'm here. We were sitting discussing many topics at our breakfast, and
we realized we didn't have a guest.
And I made eye contact, and here I am.
That's right. So, Larry, our breakfast place was nice because we had a room to ourselves.
Correct.
But and the waitress, I don't know whether she's the owner. She's was very sweet and very nice.
Daughter of the owner.
I just don't think they've ever had that many people eat at their restaurant ever because 4 of us got our food and the rest of you sat there and stared at us while we ate.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have to work on that a little bit.
We'll have to work on that. They definitely want our business, but yeah. Anyway, so that was the big thing for me.
Well, a bunch of fat guys. If you want to get our business, bring the food and lots of it.
But one of the things we do want to talk about, and you were there, was the degree work we did at our lodge the other night.
Okay, what was going on with the degree work?
Well, you tell me. You were there. I wasn't. I know we did 1 Master Mason initiation, and we did 3 fellow crafts. Started at 7 o'clock. You get
so
out
why
of there
didn't you
about
show
11:30.
up? So why didn't you come, Larry?
Because it started at 7 o'clock and still was going on about 11:30. That's why I didn't show up.
You weren't there either, were you, Dick?
No, recovering from hip surgery.
Okay, so it was actually done pretty well. Traveling around the world watching other people do degrees, I have to say that the Lamberton Lodge and the First Masonic District in general does a very good job with degree work. I got pushed into the junior deacon chair, so I really didn't have too much to do other than just stand there and I chomped on candy loudly and made everybody annoyed. But yeah, it was a nice night. It went pretty quickly. We were able to do 2 of the seconds we did in what we call short form, basically saving the lecture at the altar or at the lecture in the east at the end to doing it for all 3 guys. And then there's also the lecture at the altar. We only do that once for all 3 guys. So it wasn't so bad, but I snuck out of there and I was actually home by 11. So
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And one of our compadres, Jimmy Tully, has spent more time in the chaplain's chair in the last year than he did while he was chaplain.
Well, there seems to be a habit here of our lodge. We always try to find somebody with a speech impediment to be our chaplain.
He's from New York.
Yeah, so he's got like a Long Island accent. I guess maybe that's not a speech impediment, but it's pretty damn funny.
It is.
And before that, it was Larry Hudson, and Larry's got a very distinct, very good speaking voice, but it's very distinct, and he has some unique pronunciations of things. And when I got in, there was a guy named Ed was our chaplain. And when you're coming in your first degree and, you can't see what's going on in the room, and he starts speaking, it sounds like the mouth of God speaking, because he had this really high, warbly voice, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like Count Dracula's doing he's offering up a prayer, but So I'm glad we're continuing the tradition there.
I refer to the chaplain's chair as a sleeping chair.
Yeah. Until Jimmy broke it last week.
Because he fell asleep.
I will give Jimmy props. I think he actually did, after doing this for 10 years, I think he finally decided to memorize the prayers.
I believe.
Yeah, it's not rocket surgery, guys. It's a very small thing to memorize. We had a funeral, so that was kind of a downer. I went to a funeral for the sitting master of Millersville, Charles M. Howe Lodge, a gentleman by the name of Lloyd. And he was a past master, and he was current master. He passed away very quickly from pancreatic cancer, I believe. Yeah. So that was a somber occasion, but it was, it's always nice to do our duty and show up there for a brother. And a few of us left afterwards and went to have some libations in his name. So I think Lloyd would have appreciated that.
He definitely would have. He was a good man, incidentally, a good man. And he was master of the lodge until the day he died.
Yep. Yeah, he announced at a school of instruction that, that his status of his health and, that he had probably had about 6 months to live. And he made it probably a little over 2. But, he made it 4. Okay. Yeah, but our principal of our school of instruction is a past master of our lodge, and he spoke and he said that, he had never met anybody who was, able to look that in the face and be so okay with it. He's obviously got a little bit more religious faith than I do, and he was pretty secure in his future, whereas I'd be freaking out and scared to death. But yeah, I wish I could be that strong.
Yeah, me too.
Funerals, particularly Masonic, are very somber, ritualistic occasions. And I think you really have to have a lot of fun at a funeral. If you can't laugh, why go?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing funny about the Masonic service.
No, nothing at all.
But I mean, it's nice. Me coming from a Catholic background, I'm used to certain structure and like that. But in this area where there's a lot of Anabaptists, a lot of people that don't really have a very structured liturgy, and they really get something out of the Masonic service because it's memorized, and we have a good thing that we do.
I still think that the master who's conducting the funeral should throw a joke in there now and then.
Well, that's why you're never going to be district deputy, Larry.
That's correct.
So we've had some other discussions this week. Maybe we can get to some of these after the first break. I'm going to sound like Larry here because some of these things are going to take a little longer to discuss. Like I had, for our grotto, we just went through and received a bunch of uniforms from a unit called the Big Six. And that's going to be a good topic. And we also have been talking about opening up a Masonic social club here in Lancaster. So if you don't have anything else to cover, Larry, we'll go to a break and we'll come back and we'll dive right into this with Mr. Kenna.
You mean you're really going to go to a break?
We're really going to go to a break this time.
I can't believe it.
I have to go to the bathroom, guys.
Today, more than ever, the fate of nations is led by a cabal of individuals and corporations. From the price of gas and basic necessities continually escalating, people are feeling like puppets with a chosen few pulling the strings. In other words, follow the money. In a fascinating work of historical fiction, The Red Serpent chronicles how the rich and powerful have prevailed through the centuries of history. 5,000 years after Sumerians bury the greatest wealth of knowledge the world has ever known, traces of it surface in the 20th century, along with omens and executions. The Vatican is in a frenzy to possess it. A secret society will stop at nothing to control it, and innocent people are doomed by obscure connections with it. In a bizarre quirk of fate, an obsessed French policeman, an alluring philology professor, an ex-Mossad rabbi, and a powerful Jewish family join forces to solve a triad of ancient puzzles. They must battle their way through Europe, outwit assassins, and dodge overwhelming foes. But how do they convince governments to aid them in their quest? What if they run out of time? And can they pull off the phenomenon that will change civilization forever? The Red Serpent by Larry Maris is available at Amazon, Amazon Kindle, and Barnes & Noble, plus fine bookstores everywhere.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're back from break, and we're here with our guest today, Richard Kenna. So, Dick, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll get into your Masonic background as well.
Okay. I spent my life working with in the field of special ed as a teacher, administrator, and advocate for kids and adults.
So you're good with us, with Larry and I. You're going to really help.
Absolutely am. It really explains a lot to me. Yeah. And have lived in Lancaster County since '69. I had a Brooklyn accent at one point, but I've actually tried to gotten rid of it. And I'm good.
Smart.
I'm good.
Smart.
Yes. But from Brooklyn to Philadelphia to here, and it's been a crazily interesting experience.
So you were one of the original guys that would go to breakfast with Larry at the Goose and Gridiron, correct?
I was.
And you were not a Mason.
I was not. I've never known a Mason, except that I've known Larry for 45 years and never knew he was a Mason. And my mom passed, and she was a lifetime Eastern Star. And I mentioned the service that they did for my mom and said, gee, I'd like to know some more about Freemasonry. And Larry had the application on the table before I got the coffee to my lips.
So Larry's pretty much old school of never soliciting. So
that's right.
Apparently not. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you joined, I guess, was it 5 years ago? 4 years ago?
It was about 5 years ago, I think. Yeah. 10, 11, somewhere in there.
Okay. So what did you feel about the experience and the process?
Well, I like the process. I think personally, the 3-month process of going through the 3 degrees is pretty critical. I have been verbal occasionally about the one-day classes and so forth. I went to one for one of our friends and decided that I would never go back, and have not.
So what is it you just don't think? Well, you're also part of the mentoring committee for our lodge. I
am.
So is it because you feel like the guys just don't get anything out of it, or what?
Well, I think it was far before I became a member of the mentoring committee. I think it's a process of becoming a Freemason. You don't really absorb the things that they're trying to teach you in the first 3 degrees, and heaven forbid you learn them all in one day. You lose the personal contact, and mentoring, quite honestly, has changed a lot of my perceptions about these young guys coming into our lodge. Young guys are showing up. They're expressing an interest in becoming part of the lodge and being active as Freemasons, and sort of kind of tap our own back. I think that the mentoring has been a real good thing.
Incidentally, the brother that we went to see in this one-day class didn't show up. He overslept.
Yeah.
And his wife said something to him about, Pete, were you supposed to be somewhere today? He said, oh, Lord, he said, I overslept. So here we are sitting through this abominable one-day class.
And the guy that you went there for wasn't even
there.
Well, he is from Lebanon County. They're a little different.
Yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah, I'm from Philly. I'm a little different as well, so that works out well.
So, Dick, tell us, and Larry too, you guys are both on this mentoring committee. So tell us a little bit more about what the Grand Lodge expects of that, and then what our take on it and is how we kind of spin it to make it work.
I'm not sure what the Grand Lodge says about it, though it's probably nothing similar to what we do.
Well, we use the Grand Lodge, their printed material and so forth as a guideline, and it does help us do our thing. But I think each lodge, I know particularly the Ephrata Lodge does a few things differently than what the Grand Lodge would have them do. But essentially, we all do the same thing, or the results are the same. Okay,
so when do you start? So like in the normal process, we have the committee investigation, come back, we vote on a guy, he gets approved. So you start after they get their first degree, or before?
No, after they get approved.
Okay, so what do you do?
We prepare them for the worst.
Yeah, basically we try to answer the questions. And I think the real key to the mentoring is not so much what we try to teach them or what they learn, but to give them a connection to the lodge, somebody that they can call, somebody that they know, somebody that they, when they walk into lodge as a Master Mason for the first time, they have somebody to sit with, somebody that's in contact with them. We teach them what they have to say and what they have to do for each of the degrees, but I think the key is that interpersonal piece that's missing, was missing when I joined.
Well, I think that's important because I'm a guy that, I've always been socially active inside and outside the Masonic community, so a lot of people know I'm a Mason, and I've probably been the first line signer of around 100 petitions. Some of these guys I know, but I'm not really great personal friends with. Mm-hmm. And the way that traditionally it used to be in our lodge was that if you're the first line signer, now you're taking on the obligation of being the mentor and you're supposed to show up for all of these things. Well, I've not been the best guy at that. Because
we noticed.
Yeah. So that's the thing, somebody comes up to me because they see my post of something I'm doing on Facebook, and I knew them in college 20 years ago. But, I haven't been able to be there any more than like a few conversations to help them get their.
Well, the truth of the matter is you're supposed to be at our mentoring meetings if you're the first line signer. Your absence has been noticed.
Oh, excellent.
But here's the thing. We know from experience, and this is years and years and years of experience, that the first line or the second line fellows that really are responsible for getting the people in normally should be somehow active in that participants raising and so forth. But we know it doesn't happen. History tells us it doesn't happen, which is why we have a mentoring committee. So if you're not there, again, we have it covered.
So tell us a little bit about the meetings. What do you do at these meetings between the degrees?
Well, we don't drink.
Well, it's at the lodge.
It's at generally, yes. We take a look at each of the brothers that are coming in. One of the brothers couldn't get to our mentoring meetings, so we went to him and had mentoring meetings at his place of business. So we're pretty. So
you're just kind of going over what they experienced in the previous degree, and
each degree builds upon their last degree, and the things that they have to be able to repeat, the things that they have to be able to say, the structure of the degree. We don't get into the specifics of the degree, but we then go over if once they've gotten their first degree, we sit with them after that and go over what they've learned and how that tumbles into the second degree. So.
Yeah, and it is interesting because when you get your first degree, Dick will agree with this, you're actually hit with a whole lot of new things. And people don't quite understand it unless they can watch the degree after that to get an inkling. But what we do in the mentoring committee, we'll go over all of that with them. We'll explain things to them so that they have a basic understanding, so that when they do witness that first degree again, they'll be able to put two and two together, and it will help a great deal. And we do that every time they're raised to an additional degree. And after they become a Master Mason, we pull them back in again and explain to them what they've been through, and we give them the word again.
The one thing I noticed, and I don't have any data to support this, but it does seem like since you've started doing this, I have been seeing these newer Masons showing up at stated and extra meetings.
Same here.
Yeah, another thing, too, is what we try to do is make friends with these guys. When they come into to the dinner before, we always have a dinner before our meeting. We get with them, we sit with them, we make them part of it. And what's happening is they're taking over committees. They're becoming active in the lodge. So this is working for us.
Yeah, I think there are two things. Once I joined, I said 5 years ago, Jimmy and Larry were my first and second line signers, and I didn't know a soul in the lodge. And it took me several years to really know a soul in the lodge. It wasn't for these two guys. In all honesty, I don't know that I would have kept coming back. And I think that is our, as we look at the mentoring committee, we do things that I'm sure the Grand Lodge would not appreciate. Like we make them come to mentoring meetings. We make them come to dinners. We make them come and serve their brethren. I mean, we do things that...
Yeah, that was nice at the one dinner. I saw like a couple guys serving us dinner, and I'm like, who's that? And they're like, oh, he just got his first degree. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And they're actually it was a really nice way to get to meet these guys and make them feel like they're part of the lodge when they're only an apprentice.
Yeah.
See, that whole thing bothered me, though, that they had to come and serve. Because I remember when I was in the Navy and I was waiting to get into control tower school, they decided for 6 weeks to send me over to the galley, which is the place where you ate. And I was a freaking mess cook for 6 weeks. And that's what it kind of reminded me of. Hey, fellas, you're not going to go to your next degree unless you do some cooking and cleaning
I don't
up.
think it was that forced.
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay, good.
It was terrible.
It was. Yep. We gave them no option. Now, some of them didn't come because they had to work or whatever, but basically we said, this is what we'd like you to do. And we'll pick you up and bring you if we need to. And they buy it. I mean, and it is part of that interpersonal, that interpersonal kind of touching that we do. Oops, that's the wrong word.
Yeah. Please no touching.
Interpersonal directive that we give to the guys.
Show me on the doll where he touched you.
I'm not going there, Pete.
Okay. So now that we've got the guys in, I mean, a lot of these guys, recent guys, I've seen them at not only at breakfast, I've seen them come. So, I mean, they're not just becoming good Masons, they're becoming our friends.
Yeah, a couple of them are in Grotto. We think we signed up with 7 or 8 from our lodge, I think, at the last Grotto. Young guys are coming in. Young guys are getting involved, and that's the future of Freemasonry as far as I'm concerned.
We're having an almoner's dinner. I want to keep saying alimony. Almoner's dinner
that would
tonight.
be cheaper.
Close.
The head of the fellowship, committee, his name is Ron, basically is new as a new member, and he's taken on that responsibility, and he's doing the dinner tonight, and he's doing one bang up job. He hasn't been a Mason for about a year,
Nice.
a little bit over. Yeah, they're really coming in and doing a great job.
Well, you have to tell me all about it because I won't be there.
I know they won't.
Well, this is my wife's first venture into Freemasonry, and she's not been allowed to come or expressed an interest to come to any of our Freemasonry activities since I became a Mason.
Well, Dick, I'm going to tell you that the true, what I believe is the true secret of Freemasonry is if you bring your wife to enough very boring, dry Masonic events, she is not going to ever care or question when you want to go to something. When I drug my wife to this Tall Cedars initiation, which was a 3.5 hour death march of boredom, and that has bought me so much good free time with my brethren, because if I just say I want to go somewhere, she's just like, have fun, just go.
I tell my wife about the snake that got loose and still running around the lodge.
Yeah, it's still not funny, but we'll just keep listening to it.
Yeah. See, I have this deal. When I go to Masonic events, I wear my wedding ring. And I told her that that's a requirement of Freemasonry, that if you're married, you have to wear your wedding ring. So she knows I'm going to Freemasonry activities as long as I have my ring on. Now, today I'm in trouble. But she will be able to hear this, I assume, somewhere down the line.
Right, so you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So, Dick, you also, you mentioned Grotto, so that's a good segue. You recently joined Grotto.
Did.
And we make it we're horses' asses, and we have a fun time. You are not a drinker.
No.
So tell me, just the take on that. We have a few guys, like I know Mr. Hoover doesn't imbibe either, and he also seems to have a good time. So just let us know your opinion on our shenanigans. If we think we should tone it back, or how you like it.
I was hesitant about joining, to be honest with you. I quit about 6.5, 7 years ago, and it took me several years to decide that I wanted to give this a try. I was nervous about it. I stay away from bars and alcohol as much as I can, but I found it to be just as relaxing and normal as I've ever experienced a bunch of guys. Nobody gets crazy. Everybody has a few drinks, and
except for you and Scott.
Except for you, me and Scott. But we don't we don't sit at the same table, though.
Right.
And apparently, I've become the designated driver for a couple of our new guys that just joined. So,
well, thank you for your support.
It is not a scary place to be if you don't drink. I guess that's the point.
Yeah. I just never wanted it to get that bad rap, because it's we do have fun, but it's
a crazy couple hours. and I think that as long as you look at it from that perspective and don't dwell on the fact that you're not drinking, I think you're fine.
Well, as long as I've been going there, no one has ever gone overboard.
No,
everything.
Well, Larry, you're on so many medications. I mean, you have once you have your first glass of beer, you're kind of napping in the corner.
That's true, really. And that's why Dick drives home.
So here's a kind of we'll transition now to a topic I talked about earlier. There's a grotto out in Ohio called Al Sirat Grotto. And there was a time back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s when they had upwards of 10,000 men on their ranks. And they had a unit called the Big Six. The Big Six were 6 men. They're kind of dressed like the guard of the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, the flying monkeys.
Yeah, so they have the big beefeater soldier kind of hats. They carry a huge axe. It's just an absolutely ridiculous outfit. It looks like a British, like a red coat, like you're John Philip Sousa, and you're in.
Or the Royal Guards at the palace, with the tall fur hats.
So yeah, and it was supposed to be 6 guys that were all over 6 foot tall. And then there's also a few extra costumes. I mean, fast forward. So their grotto has dwindled in numbers, and that unit has not been active for a while. So they know that our grotto, Ubar, has been growing, and we have a lot of interest and activity. So they were kind enough to give us the Big Six uniforms. So yesterday in my driveway, we went through all of the stuff, and we have 6 big axes. We have all these beaver pelt hats. This stuff's amazing. It probably, if we had to replace it nowadays, it might be $10,000 or so to replace. There's different uniforms for guys carrying flags. It's just, it's going to be a good time. So
all you need to do is find 6 Masons that are 6'2".
Well, yeah, we have a bunch that fit the height requirement, but unfortunately, their bellies are also as big as their height, and they may not fit the uniforms.
Yeah. Age would be an issue as well.
Yeah. I know I put the uniform on in my driveway, and I wanted to pass out from the heat. So we need to find not just tall guys, but guys that are a little bit more healthy and physically fit to be able to walk in a parade. So that'll be a good time. Larry, are you going to wear one?
What? I'm not 6 feet.
Oh, okay.
And I'm safe as well.
And I probably couldn't carry the axe.
The axe is very heavy, and it's worn on one end. So you can see most of the time they were just setting it on the ground.
Although I will revisit this once they replace my shoulder, I'll be probably able to carry the axe.
So this is your second or third shoulder?
No, first one.
Okay, you're
second surgery, but I don't want to go into it.
Steve Austin, the $6 million man for you guys that aren't up on pulp culture. Mm-hmm. Oh, Larry's making Larry's crossing his legs. So we're going to go another break, and we'll be right back.
The Masonic Light Podcast is sponsored by MasonicScarves.com, home of unique Masonic-themed soccer scarves. Our scarves aren't printed. All of the artwork is knitted into the design. We can also do custom-made designs featuring your local lodge or commemorating an event. These make a great gift for visitors, members, or for fundraising. Visit our website at MasonicScarves.com and click on the Shop Now button to see our full catalog. At checkout, use code PODCAST and you'll get $5 off per scarf. www.MasonicScarves.com.
Hey, we're back, and we have a special guest here, an unexpected but welcome guest. When we took our last break, we had Jason Lewis popped in the door. He was our guest last week on the show, so welcome, Jason.
Hello.
So you were downtown.
I was.
So what were you downtown doing? Because when we tried coming here, we were going to start recording today at 10, but we got trapped by traffic because the police and the parking cops have everything blocked off, and there's people poorly hanging plants downtown. So what the heck is going on downtown?
Yeah, the Leeds organization was hanging plants, part of their spring or summer fundraiser, and they're a beautification program. But then also I think that Open Streets, I think that's what it's called, Open Streets Lancaster is happening, which is a big vendor event up and down Chestnut Street out to Musser Park.
Okay, so I thought it was Water Street.
Water Street to Chestnut, I think.
Water Street's notorious for Lancaster. That's being the street where the prostitutes hang out. So that's probably really good to have a street festival there.
Yeah, that's where Dick and I almost got arrested this morning, by the way.
Well, that beats the Long Park's bathroom. But if you're not from the area, you won't understand that. So we're gonna segue this all into, because we're talking about fundraising, and fundraising is a big part of Freemasonry, and it's also a thing that Dick hates. So Dick, tell us a little bit more about fundraising and Masonic, and put your grumpy pants on. We like it.
I have my grumpy pants on most of the time. I joined Freemasonry because it was a fraternal organization where men would get together, and so
Larry's doing once again his hand signals.
Well, Dick's beating drums on the table.
Well, you can say that. It's easier that than when you flail your arms like Danger Will Robinson. When you start doing that, then everybody stops and stares and try and think you're doing charades. It doesn't make good radio.
Yeah, it's in my lap. Anyway, it was never meant to be, in my mind, a charitable fundraising organization. I spent a lot of years in the JCs and a lot of other nonprofit organizations where we raised funds, did a lot of it, sold. I was going to say I sold pretty much everything that can be sold, but you really have to tone that down a little bit.
Right, but I mean, you've sold your share of hoagies and cookies and popcorn and anything you can sell as a fundraiser.
My perspective is this. If you need to run a fundraiser to support your lodge, then you need to raise the dues to support your lodge. I think the fundraising for that purpose is absolutely out of bounds in Freemasonry.
I think most of the things, at least in Lamberton Lodge, if we do a fundraiser, it's for a purpose that's not part of the budget. We're doing a fundraiser for a charity on top of things.
Then raise the budget.
Take the money out of the money we have stashed.
I'm sorry, Pete.
No. Don't be sorry. We enjoy it.
We do pies. Lodge of Perfection does pies twice a year. They do apple dumplings in the summertime, and I join in. I help them make their pies. I make them. I don't go door to door selling them though, but it is for a specific purpose. It's to support the Dyslexic Center, and it's a joint effort of a lot of lodges. I actually can buy into that because what we're doing isn't supporting our lodge. It's supporting the Dyslexic Center. Yeah, I am ADD and spent my years in education.
Let me say one thing. That drum roll noise you hear in the background, that's Dick. He's basically, he's
pounding the table. He's so passionate.
He's so passionate about this. The table's being pounded. So just look at it as whatever.
Yeah, whatever is good.
So you're not into fundraising, and you're also not into.
Well, I don't sell pizzas, and I don't sell hoagies, and I don't participate, which is my right, I think.
Yeah.
As a Freemason, I listen to the spiels that go on, and I think the supporting charities comes from us being a fraternal organization. It doesn't, the charitable giving does not make us a fraternal organization. I think there's a real difference there. I personally choose not to sell subs or hoagies or pretty much of anything else.
And you know, my little thing about Freemasonry is my little pet peeve is like, I'm not going to the almoners dinner. Like some of these dinners, I'm just not into. I do enough social Masonic things that I don't know. I just don't need to drag my wife out to this dinner tonight.
Well, to be on the positive side of that, one of the notes that I made for myself was that I needed to say, attend your Blue Lodge, support your Blue Lodge, regardless of where you go in Freemasonry, Scottish Rite, York Rite, wherever. The Blue Lodge is the key to this whole thing, and I think we have to support it. I'm going to the almoners dinner tonight. Actually, I'm taking my wife. It will be the first time she's ever attended a Masonic activity, and
well, I think everybody needs to do something. So
yeah, I do.
When I had it for years, I couldn't. Tuesday nights, our stated meeting night, I couldn't go, but I did make sure I showed up on Thursday and did guide work. So whatever your little niche is, you try and do something.
Yeah.
You do a lot of stuff, Jason. You're secretary, right?
Yep, secretary and involved in a handful of other bodies.
God bless you.
Yeah. How's that working out for you?
I'm busy. It's fun. I love it. Just joined the board of directors of the Masonic Center, so that should be interesting.
That's amazing that they let somebody in under 100.
I know, right?
So
Doing my best to keep the average age down.
Well, since we're talking about pet peeves, I have one. You can all add to this if possible. This quest that our Grand Lodge seems to be under to include families in at least 3 or 4 meetings every year.
You mean like the whole the open installation crap?
The open installation, strawberry night, this night, that night. And also, there's a table lodge being held somewhere north of us where families can go to a table lodge.
Why should we punish our families by making them sit through the most boring dinner they've ever had?
I have a problem with that whole concept. I didn't join Freemasonry 42 years ago to have to do the thing with family once a year. Ladies' night. We call it ladies' night in South Carolina. Here we call it our annual dinner. That's it. That's my take. That's my take.
So, Jason, you're a younger guy. So, what do you think about all of us old men being grumpy?
Oh man, yeah, you guys are a grumpy bunch. The family stuff, it's a mixed bag. I like open installation, and I was really proud to go get installed as secretary. So it was very nice to have my family there. But I see the other side of it too. I mean, it's an organization that I joined to have good friends and make brothers with a bunch of men, and but at the same time, it is nice to have some family around.
I mean, here's my thing. I think we do so many great things, and if we're going to share parts of our ritual and parts of our things that we do, that's really not just the greatest thing to share out there. I mean, that's where sharing something like, hey, watch us pat ourselves on the back for, being popular and having our service recognized. That's nice. But I mean, we need to do a better job of promoting the good charitable things we do. Dick making pies. That's to me, and raising money for the Dyslexic Center. I did see something in the local newspaper. There was a picture of our district deputy presenting a check. That's something where I think we're lax in. We're lax in promoting the good things we do for the community. If we want to really change people's views on Freemasons, that's the stuff we need to market.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Well, I guess we've. Particularly me and some of us have ruined the possibility of having the right worshipful Grandmaster appear in this show.
Well, no. I mean, I'd love to see him come here and dress you down. Get you to tone down your shenanigans.
Probably not.
Oh, okay. So we've got something else, and I'm glad Jason's here. We have a meeting tonight, and this is probably I was telling the guys at breakfast this morning that this might be a good topic because we finally maybe have an overall arc for this show, because that's going to go episode to episode. Jason and I, and Larry as well, we're involved in a discussion for starting a Masonic social club in Lancaster. We don't have anything like that now, anywhere where we can go and sit down and play a game of pool or smoke a cigar or play some cards or, have a beer. We have nothing like that. So we started the discussions of starting a social club, and boy, we're finding out it's a lot of work. So Dick, you've got a lot of experience in groups. So what do you have to add for our, we're having our second, probably our first meeting that has a lot of people there tonight to discuss setting this up.
Certainly it's not something that I've heard you talk about. My grandfather was a Mason in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. He was also an Elk. Why don't we just go and join the Elks?
Well, I am an Elk.
Oh, see, here you go. We already have the building, we have the bar, we have the ping pong tables and the pool tables and the table shuffleboard. Why don't we just go and invade the Elks, become officers in that organization? And I say that with tongue in cheek, but in all seriousness, in Brooklyn, when my grandfather was a Mason, I have his pin, and his Masonic pin is a Masonic pin with an elk on the bottom of it. And when I did some research, I found that many of the Masonic lodges in Brooklyn, New York, and in a lot of places had, I don't know that you'd call them joint lodges, with joint memberships, joint affiliations, where I don't know that we want to go to the Elks until they put an elk out front, but that's another story.
Well, there's an elk out front.
No, there's a white-tailed deer out front.
Oh, okay. I do know when I joined the Elks, their oath and obligation starts out gangbusters, like the Masonic one.
Yeah.
And there was probably about 8 Masons in the class. And so everybody's giving the oath and obligation. And of course, the Masons we're on autopilot. We just continued and started giving ours instead of giving the elk one. And there was a big roar of laughter from the crowd because apparently every single class, when there's Masons in it, we do it wrong. So that was fun.
But that would save you some money.
Well, it would save us some money though, because the building downtown for the Elks is a behemoth. It is a tax nightmare. They're fighting all the time to, pay the bills and fix things. And one of the things I think that our goal for this organization is, I don't want to go into the bar business. I don't want to manage a bar. I don't want to manage employees. So we don't want to have a liquor license. We don't want to have a commercial kitchen. We basically want something just a step above a garage that we can go and sit down and, have heat and air conditioning and televisions. So what's your thought on the whole thing, Jason? You're into the idea.
I like it. And that whole Elks idea has been tossed around, in the internet discussions on the Facebook groups about this. And maybe long term, if this doesn't pan out, that's an option. But I like the idea of just going to lodge to socialize. And in the city, that's not possible because of the way our Masonic Center is set up and dictated. And, a lodge like Ephrata, they have the ability, they own their lodge, they can go and they can play pool. They have a pool table and they have a lot of social functions there. We don't have the ability to do that. And I think this is a great idea. Elks, maybe if this doesn't pan out, but having our own clubhouse, I think is a great idea.
I just know a bunch of us meet at a cigar shop that one of our brothers owns. And when we go there, I always feel like we're a group of guys invading somebody else's party because there's a group of regulars there that go there every day. And then, the big gang of Masons, we come in there about once every 2 weeks. And they just look like the regulars look really grumpy because we come in and we take over. And that's the kind of the feeling I get about if we were to do that. Because there's going to be a lot of overlap if we did join another organization and try to infiltrate and take it over. There's going to be a lot of years where we're cohabitating and, they're going to feel like we're not fully immersing into their culture.
They'd be right.
So I just think it would just not be a socially fun environment.
Yeah, I agree. It would be nice. And I know how our Grand Lodge is in terms of making change and doing anything. But just to be able to take the second floor or the third floor and make it into a lounge area the way Ephrata has done, even without the alcohol, I think would be a marvelous idea.
Yeah, I'd love a place that I could come and sit down and watch a football game on Sunday and play pool or smoke a cigar. But Jason, as the building committee junior member, there's not a chance in heck of that, is there?
No, I highly doubt that would happen. I mean, the liability alone is an immense cost. And we do rent that center out for some functions. But like I said in a message on Facebook, I mean, I think we deny maybe 90% of the requests. And frankly, the Masonic Center doesn't always need it. So,
Okay.
Pete, I hate to say it, but I forgot to take my heart pills this morning, so can we take a break?
God, Larry, that's like 10 breaks. What do you want to break for?
I want a break. I need to take my pills.
Oh, for God's sake.
Today, more than ever, the fate of nations is led by a cabal of individuals and corporations. From the price of gas and basic necessities continually escalating, people are feeling like puppets with a chosen few pulling the strings. In other words, follow the money. In a fascinating work of historical fiction, The Red Serpent chronicles how the rich and powerful have prevailed through the centuries of history. 5,000 years after Sumerians bury the greatest wealth of knowledge the world has ever known, traces of it surface in the 20th century, along with omens and executions. The Vatican is in a frenzy to possess it. A secret society will stop at nothing to control it. and innocent people are doomed by obscure connections with it. In a bizarre quirk of fate, an obsessed French policeman, an alluring philology professor, an ex-Mossad rabbi, and a powerful Jewish family join forces to solve a triad of ancient puzzles. They must battle their way through Europe, outwit assassins, and dodge overwhelming foes. But how do they convince governments to aid them in their quest? What if they run out of time? And can they pull off the phenomenon that will change civilization forever? The Red Serpent by Larry Maris is available at Amazon, Amazon Kindle, and Barnes & Noble, plus fine bookstores everywhere.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're back here once again. Larry's got his pants back zipped up, and back here with Larry and Jason and Dick. And now we're going to get into reader mail.
Return to sender. Address unknown.
So that's my Elvis intro.
That's awesome. Just awesome. Fan mail, hate mail. Today, we get, we're getting fan mail, believe it or not. And we're going to read it, whether they don't like us or whether they like us. And part of the show is going to be devoted to that because we really like to hear from you. So,
for God's sake, Larry, just read the fan mail.
So please keep those cards and letters coming.
Oh my God, it's like a bad radio show from the 50s.
Okay, this is the first one. Hi, gents. I'm a brother from Brunswick, United Lodge, 924 in Victoria, Australia. Fantastic work with the podcast. It's fun and interesting. I love the fact that you guys are able to talk about the fun and practical side of Freemasonry in lay terms. I'll be promoting you guys down here in Australia, and let me know if you ever need anything. Keep up the great work. Fraternal brother Jack Aquilina from Victoria, Australia. Awesome.
Well, I think Brother Jack hits on a thing, and we mentioned this at breakfast. The fraternal, the friendship, the practical, the side is where I think a lot of other shows and a lot of other Masons in general, when I look at Facebook, you know, people are so busy posting all this esoteric stuff. But like, do they ever go out and hang out with a brother that's a friend? I mean, to me, that's like the main thing.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know. Dick, you always have thoughts on things.
I was going to say beside Grotto and Gridiron and Gooses, I don't think those conversations happen often enough. They do perhaps when the guys go out before a meeting and have a couple of beers and sit and chat, but I don't think in any organized way that happens much in Freemasonry.
I just think if more lodges did that and more lodges had like open conversations, like, you know, two men sitting on bar stools next to each other, we get a lot more problems solved and we like each other a lot more.
Agreed.
Okay, next one. Hello, brethren. My name is George, and I'm a newly raised Master Mason from Babylon Lodge, 793, from the Grand Lodge of New York, and I'm a Latter-day Saint, a.k.a. Mormon. And I like your show and the lightheartedness of it. If you have any questions that I'm able to answer about the similarities between church and craft, I'd be more than happy to help. Also, I've made... he talks a little bit about his faith and so forth. Well, I don't want to read that because it's probably more personal.
But I think that's our first show. If you haven't listened to these in order, Larry brought up an article and the discussion a little bit.
That's right. We had two shows, the first and second when we talked about it exactly.
And you know, we're openly idiots when it comes to the topic of you know, the Latter-day Saint Church. So yeah, we'll see if we can. We're going to work on the Skype thing. If we can make sure that sounds good to the listeners, we'd love to have our brother George on the show.
Yeah, exactly. And another one, just wanted to let you guys know that I enjoy the show. I loved hearing about the grotto, and I'd love to hear more about tall cedars. I don't know why, but tall cedars.
Jason, are you in tall cedars?
Yeah, I was in your class.
That's right. Yeah. So, and Dick,
Same.
So all four of us were in the same class.
Yeah.
And to freak them all out, I really like my little green hat.
You have a small head, so that pyramid probably fits. So yeah, we'll talk more about tall cedars. Maybe we'll get a more senior brother in here to talk about it because we're four new guys. Our only experience was that 3.5 hour death march of a meeting. And they try to assure us that is not the norm.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get brother Chris Gibson in here. He is
he'd be good.
33rd degree. He's been master of his lodge like 85 times because nobody else ever steps up. I think he's the head of Lodge of Perfection this year.
Yes.
So yeah, Chris is just an amazing guy, an amazing Mason, but he's also good to listen to. And I think he's a past sapling or something, whatever the term is for tall cedars. I think he could talk a little more about it.
Agreed.
We got another one, and I'm very glad that Jason is joining us this morning. This is from Dave Kendig. He said, "You guys are classic. Thanks for the content. Jason, if it was 5 bills instead of 20, would that have swayed you?" That was a question mark.
What was that talking about?
You're talking about his trip to Atlanta and a proposition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, remember that at the Red Roof Inn?
Oh, so if it was $100?
Whatever.
Or $5 total. Okay, I get it.
But Jason made the terminal mistake of answering Dave Kendig.
I did.
Yeah, Jason says, probably not. Maybe if he was a looker. Hey, Jason, good for you.
Yeah. My friend Atlanta was not a looker, so try harder next time, Atlanta.
And the last one, this is sent to us also. And this, I don't want to call this hate mail, but this is, anyway, let me read this.
For God's sake, later.
I just finished listening to your recent podcast. Like the others, I enjoyed it. One thing that caught my ear is Pete's comment about older folks grumpy, having a harder time with modern stuff like technology.
It's kind of like how you have a hard time keeping your mouth near the microphone.
Yeah, as a gerontology study of aging guy, it seems that myths are being perpetuated. I think Pete may be surprised if he did a literature or Google search for aging myths. I look forward to your next podcast. And that's signed Mike. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Mike, okay? Retired professor. He moved from the western part of the state to York County, more specifically Red Lion.
When he got there, did they issue him his Confederate flag as soon as he got there? I don't know,
but I think we failed as brothers to warn him about living in Red Lion. But anyway, he sent me some information about aging myths debunked. You want to hear him?
Not really.
Okay.
But let's go.
Well,
let's humor our professor.
Just so you know, is it a myth that old folks have lower libido? It's a myth because a lot of them really mostly don't. It's a mind over matter thing.
Dick, he's your buddy. So.
I am what I'm not normally. I am speechless.
Can you tell Larry on his way home that stick with being the straight guy and we'll be the funny guys?
Grumpy old guaranteed mood. Grumpy old mood. Well, that's not a guarantee. But anyway, just so I brought this up so this would help our listener Mike in Red Lion understand that we are very much attuned to the fact that old people are a pain in the ass.
And they can't get their mouth near the microphone.
That's right.
If I might have a comment for Mike. When I retired and got old.
And you're old and you have your face near the microphone, so that means it's not common.
I'm not sure what that means, Pete. At any rate, I read something from Acts, and it said basically that young men shall see visions, and your old men will dream dreams. And I decided about that point in my retirement that sure as hell wasn't going to happen to me, because I still have visions. I may not be around to see the end of them, but we do have them.
Thank you so much.
Well put.
Well, we're getting we've got about 10 minutes left in our show, so we may skip a little to spare you guys some extra torment. So, Larry, anything else you want to add before we get going?
No, other than the news, no.
Okay, well, go jump into the news quickly then.
All news not fit to print. Masonic Light News. There is an inquiry into the Titanic disaster as to it being whitewashed by Freemason members. This is hitting the news in Europe, incidentally. Almost 100 and some years later, we're being blamed. A once secret list of Freemasons may have been implicated in the sinking of the Titanic. and totally escaped without punishment. According to the reports, the list includes heads of the Titanic Inquiry Committee, including the Board of Trade President Sidney Buxton, a British investigation into the 1912 tragedy, which left more than 1,500 people dead, failed to blame the British Board of Trade for a lack of safety
I
regulations.
really wish this show would hit an iceberg so we could end the segment.
And it goes on and on and on. And actually, even the actual builder, an owner of the shipyard, Harland and Wolff, who built the ship, he also was a Freemason. There's a fellow that wrote this new book, Titanic Expert, by Nick Compton, said the Titanic inquiry in Britain was called a whitewash because it exonerated most everyone involved. Only 3 passengers were interviewed, and all of them were for first class. Even the captain of the ship was exonerated on the grounds that most other ships at the time were known to speed through the iceberg.
I have no idea what this man talks about.
I can only conclude.
You have a whole internet worth of news you can pull from, and this is the kind of crap that you find for the show.
But this is important. We're being blamed for everything. There is a common theme running throughout these newscasts.
Leonardo DiCaprio's dead. There was plenty of room for him on that raft. That's all we need to know about.
Well, let me sum it up.
Please.
I can only conclude from these reports of Masons run amok that when it comes to solidarity of the Brotherhood, blood really is thicker than water.
And I am not going to read,
especially ice water.
I am not going to read the canned jokes that you have here highlighted for me. Dick or Jason, do you have anything to add to that enlightening
I've known
article?
the man for 45 years, and he hasn't changed one bit.
You know,
It's been a long 45
well,
years.
you've heard the story.
How are we
about-
going to sell your books when people are reading this? And you're like, oh my God, I can't read his damn book. He's just going to be droning on.
It must be riveting.
Oh, my wife's fallen overboard. Hold the wife, folks.
Oh, Larry,
I've got to update my Facebook.
Larry, enough jokes. What's the next news thing?
Next one.
You're not allowed to use jokes.
Okay, next one. This is from a local lodge. Golden Meadows Lodge is celebrating their 250th anniversary, and we want you to be a part of that celebration. Pudding tasting and wheelchair demos will be happening in the social room. There will be a bingo tournament hosted by Samuel Glickstein, past master from 1910, and a special treat. Master Masons are invited to the lodge room at 1 p.m. for a special presentation of the Lima Bean degree. And please, if you bring your children, keep them off our damn lawn. That's the news for the day.
Oh my God. All right. Thank you, Larry, for the news. And so anything... So that's probably, we're going to take a couple weeks off because I have to digest that newscast. Larry's going on a tour of Europe to put Europeans to sleep. So we'll probably be back after that. A couple little things we'll wrap up with. Or Jason, do you have anything to say before we go?
No, thanks for having me. Let me crash.
Dick, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm good, thanks.
And so we've got Larry. Would you like? I'll let you read one more thing. Go ahead and read our commercials, and we'll get out of here.
Well, basically, we do want to thank Lancaster Podcast Studios for continuing to allow us to meet here and broadcast, and we do thank the producer very much for all the help he gives us. Also, again, it's time to thank our producer, Rocco Ruggieri. Did he ever come home?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Move along.
Okay, whatever. And again, I want to give special thanks to our news director, Ima Blather, and our foreign correspondent, Nada Worthy, who likewise, we have no idea where she is. I hope she's safe wherever. And basically, we close the show by saying we like to give credit to a law firm, which incidentally, I really found out. I always thought since the Three Stooges and Groucho Marx that this was a fictitious law firm, and it is not. Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe is an active law firm in New York City and have been benefiting by everybody talking about their letterhead or whatever, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. So essentially, we're not going to give that plug anymore. And I did it the past few weeks in honor of Tom Magliozzi, the Clappett brothers, the Car Talk, the Clappett brothers. I think that's where they were, weren't they? Anyway, the old guys.
I think Larry had a stroke.
He dug his hole. He had to lay in.
Anyway, so essentially, we're not represented by them. We never were. I want to give that shout out. And
Hopefully, our producer can just fade this show into nothingness.
thanks to the brother from New York who brought that to our attention, by the way. So we have a new law firm representing us, okay?
Larry, the show's canceled.
It's the fictitious law firm of Swindler, Steal, and Corrupt. And they're going to be helping us out in the future.
Oh, okay, folks. I can't even. So thank our two guests for coming in today. And if there's anything else, we'll add it in post-production.
And this is Larry Maris.
Dick Kenna, thank you for inviting me.
And thank you, Jason.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, bye. Bye-bye.